Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody, and want to welcome everybody to Q&A Day, Sleep In Sunday. We do the study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, sacred literature of the Vedic teachings, how to develop bhakti in your life. It's not our theory. It's not our plan. This is what the sages have said for millennia. We're in a tradition of bhakti. We study how to make these sacred literatures come alive so they're not just fantastic stories that you have to add some meaning to. That's super common. These are stories that have been passed down for millennia, and they come off almost like fairy tales, but it's actually criminal, they say in this tradition, to call these things myths. They are a window into the spiritual realm, and they have very, very substantial meaning to how we can apply them to our life. Today on Questions and Answers Day, this is exactly. Wait a second. It's not Questions and Answers Day. It's Interview Day.
Interview day.
And we have a special interview today, and we're doing it prophet style. Like if you read the book, The Prophet, on your spiritual journey, people read that. Did you read that, Kaustubha?
I did.
Oh, guess what? You, my friend, are being interviewed prophet style today.
Okay,
That's when we
prophet.
ask real, substantial, weighty questions that come off sort of simple, but we give us a deep spiritual perspective answer to those questions. What do you think about that, Mara? Mara's our producer.
Sounds great.
That's great. Okay, well, if you want to get on a Q&A day, like yesterday, all questions. And also if you want to join us live on Zoom, because we have about, 86 people today on Zoom. It vacillates between that and 115 or so. But it's nice. We have a whole little Zoom community. Otherwise, we have thousands that listen daily on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, etc. But if you want to join us live so we can see your beautiful face, you can email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. We especially invite the Facebook community who listens when we show this on Facebook Live on Saturday and Sunday. So before we start, any questions or any comments, questions, announcements, Maraji?
There's a Bhakti Recovery Group meeting today at 9:30 after
All
the
right.
Kaylee Woods. That's open to everyone. And
Okay,
then,
and how do you get on that? Bhakti Recovery is a 12-step recovery group that we host. How do you get on that if you're new to this?
if you go to bhaktirecoverygroup.com, then they have the meeting list there.
They got
And
their
then-
own website. They got their own website now?
Yeah, and it's also linked to our website, wisdomofthesages.com.
How did I miss that? All right, bhaktirecoverygroup.com.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. All right. Any other announcements?
There's also a satsang with Katie Bell at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time for our Patreon members.
All right, that's it. Community supported podcast. If you'd like to get on any of the things that we do on Patreon, it's all archived. So basically you're getting a few years since we started this podcast of archival yoga classes, workshops, trainings, etc., just for a monthly donation of your choice. And those who are contributing, we really appreciate it. It's how we keep this boat floating down the Ganga. Kaustubha Das, are you ready, my friend?
I'm ready.
All
Hit me.
right. Kaustubha's
questions?
an old friend of mine, a wise friend. serious about his spiritual journey. So I like to ask these questions because I feel like I'm going to learn something myself just from hearing him share. All right, let's dive into this. Here's the first prophet question here.
All right.
Share your thoughts on friendship.
Oh, friendship. Okay.
You got any friends?
I do. A few.
What does it mean? What does it mean to be a friend to Kaustubha?
Well, when I think of friendship, the words, in Sanskrit, there's so many different words for friendship, right? Different varieties of friendship. Even in English, we have there's different connotations, buddy and friend.
Bestie.
Bestie, yeah. But I
BFF.
think, let's talk about like one way friendship is defined as, those people that are in one sense your equals, like peers in a sense, right? There's a special, a unique type of friendship. Sometimes we call that friendship. Like throughout Prabhupada's books, throughout Bhagavatam and Mahabharata and in texts like this, you find many times it'll be mentioned and the examples will be given of different ways to associate with different types of people. And, sometimes it's defined as there are those that are your superiors or maybe your elders,
Right.
or people that are more further along the path than you in a sense. And then there are your juniors, people that may be younger than you or people that may be newer in some way to this path. And then there are the peers, people that are, roughly the same age and roughly the same, level of advancement. Now, my observation over some decades of practicing this stuff is that it's actually that relationship, the one with the peers, that is the most problematic or the most difficult, maybe.
I quoted you the other day, but
Yeah.
with
How
a
so?
statement. Exactly what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
easy to understand who's superior and who we should inquire from, but it's hard with people on your path. It tends to be like an ego struggle.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you look good, like within spiritual circles or like say within certain social circles, right? It looks good to be respectful to the elders, like, oh, what a good person, like, let's see how respectful. And it looks good to be kind and compassionate, to the junior. But nobody really recognizes that equal level friendship behavior, and it's those people that in one sense challenge you the most, like that are, if you're seeing in a competitive way, in a materialistic way, you're saying they're taking my role, they're stealing my thunder, they're grabbing my glory, those people that are like relatively equal. But it's such an essential type of relationship, that type of friendship, that you have that support on that level, that you have people that really understand what you're going through, that are going through it themselves, that you can open up to, and share things that you might not share with others. And just, it's really what brightens up one's life, and, it makes one, it brings happiness into life to have that kind of friendship. So,
Can I butt in on that one, Kaustubha?
Yeah.
Because you and me are sort of natural friends. I feel like if we
we'll go
weren't
back.
devotees of Krishna, I'd
Right.
like you. You may not like me. That's okay with that, but I would like you. But I think because we have a service together, it makes our friendship even more. That doesn't mean we don't get in disagreements, but we can work out of those disagreements rather quickly. In the material realm, though, it seems like people go towards each other as friendships because they're fulfilling. You don't have to work stuff out so much, it seems. It seems like you're just naturally drawn to a person. We call them friends.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in a spiritual circle, than just like, yeah, I got my friends. I grew up with this guy. We get together. We just laugh our asses off. And we're just like, that's what we call
There's
friends.
something natural about that for sure.
Yeah.
But I take your point within your question that our friendships don't have to be limited to those that we necessarily have a lot in common with.
Okay.
And where there's in Prabhupada's books, in the Bhagavatam, there's one place where there's a very beautiful description of friendship. And it's a friendship with Krishna. Do you know what I'm talking about, Raghunath? 10th canto. Anything coming to mind?
Nothing.
Sudama Brahmana.
Oh yeah.
Right. In the 10th canto, there's a description of, that Sudama was like when he and Krishna they were schoolmates, right? And
Right.
friends in school. And then many years later, when Krishna is living a whole different life, where he's now not in Vrindavan, but he's in Dwarka, and he's like a prince, with like palaces and unlimited wealth and beautiful, wives and opulence and all this. And Sudama was a simple Brahmana who's living in total poverty.
Mm.
And his wife, turns to him and says, Krishna's like your close friend from childhood. We're sitting here like barely getting by. Maybe you could go to him and ask him if he can help out a little bit. And he was so hesitant to do that, but he does it, because his wife requested him. And it describes how he goes there. And Krishna receives him with such love and respect. And then Krishna begins to talk about their friendship as kids. And he describes one incident. Do you remember the incident?
Forest fire.
Not forest fire, but it was like they went out to the forest.
Oh, collect wood for their guru.
That's the stereotypical service of the disciple to the guru, right? Because the guru is doing their ceremonies that involve fire, and so the disciples to serve the guru, they would go out and collect wood. So one day Sudama and Krishna went out to collect wood, and like this massive storm came, and it was like a flood, and they couldn't find their way back. And it's described they were holding hands together and just like enduring this flood. And then the next morning, their guru came out, and their guru was so touched by their selflessness and their service that he said, you two together, you sacrifice your own comforts and your own safety to serve me. And he describes how much that touched him and the blessings that they would receive by their selflessness together in their service to the guru. And that's where friendship becomes super valuable in life, right? Like when two people, particularly when they go through a lot together for a spiritual purpose, especially within that context of serving a greater soul, right? Like, for instance, in our relationship, I think we have that, like where we, in one sense, neither of us was initiated by Raghunath Swami, but we both feel like we're serving his vision, his mission, and we do it together. And as the years go by, you go through a lot together, You go through ups, you go through downs, you go through different challenges, you face them together. And that really makes a relationship not just close, but like, valuable, that kind of thing. So Bhagavatam kind of turns our attention to that type of friendship. We're serving the guru together. Really powerful. And so I think, one of the most important lessons we can learn is never break a relationship. Never break a relationship with another Vaishnava, right? Like never be the one that says those words, even if you're you feel anger, you feel some kind of disappointment, right? What are you laughing about?
No, I just flipped my glasses off by mistake in a violent way. Just like, okay, sorry.
No problem. So never try to learn. Like, I think in one of our very first episodes, you mentioned something about like that space between one's thoughts and one's words, and something like that. Do you remember that?
I don't remember it, but
putting some time in between, reaction and the incident and the reaction, something
sure.
like that, right? So like
space between stimulus and response.
Thank you, stimulus and response, and so our friendships are something that we should really value, and it's something that we value. We need to preserve, and so
that's worth a say that again. If I can rewind, if I can rewind you about 20 seconds, you were saying that we should never be the ones to say, "Hey, this friendship is over," or to even internally to cut a relationship with a practitioner of bhakti. We should always try to heal things. Was that a good
I'm not
rewind?
saying that there's no circumstance where you need to distance yourself from someone, but what I'm saying is I learned from one Vaishnava once. He shared this with me: never break a relationship with another Vaishnava, and I thought about that, and I've tried to live by it, and many times I've been like, as the time passes, I've been really glad that I followed that advice, you know.
Sure.
Because we rationalize why it's justified for us to speak certain harsh words, or
Sure.
and but if we can learn not to, we can
Sure.
preserve a lot of really important relationships in our life.
Prabhu, so these are within spiritual context. And I just want to clarify, because a lot of us are getting into bhakti in a new way. We're sort of like hearing about it, got turned on to it, and we're dealing with sometimes a new whole fleet of friends who are like, we're going to upgrade our life.
Yeah.
And even though they may not even be, we jive with them. We're talking about within a community. How do we jive with people that aren't like us? Now, here's a big thing arrives within friendship. We have sometimes long-lasting friendships that when we start developing some substance to our life, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to joke like this anymore. I don't want to eat this anymore. I don't think this is even fun anymore. Then all of a sudden, those relationships from the past, we start to see them within a new light, with a new set of lenses. If I stop drinking, then what does it mean to all my drinking buddies? When I went through a phase when I was 21 years old, where I was like, I don't want to joke about sexuality, about girls like that anymore. I don't want to talk like girls like commodities anymore. I don't want to talk like that. And I immediately realized, like, I have nothing to say to these people. And so it's like, once you cut these things out of your life, and it doesn't mean I didn't laugh with them and enjoy them almost in camaraderie, but when you sort of like isolate, like, what am I laughing at? What makes me like want to hang out with these people? A lot of times they're unsavory things.
Right. So
you're talking about a higher echelon of finding people who have those values, and then how to get along with them. And some you will be sort of like we were saying, you and I, and Mara, we do like each other's company, but how do you get along with people? There's maybe some roadblocks in your personality. I get that. So so what do you do though about people that you grew up with that are your friends, that you sort of like, they grew up with as your friends, but perhaps you're finding yourself less and less in common with them? Do you drop them as friends?
Well, you may associate with them less. You may. That very well may happen. But again, like, a wiser person won't say the words that break the friendship. And if you don't do that, then maybe you'll actually be able to help lift that person up too.
Sure.
Now I get why they stopped indulging in the same kind of conversations or the same kind of activities that I'm still involved in. I get it. I kind of see that their path makes sense. I kind of, and I want to learn more about it. But if you condemn them for it, then there's less chance that connection will remain.
Yeah, and that's tricky too. I find like your spiritual practice, Kaustubha, it's like putting like that lemon in the milk. It just sort of separates. And then certain people are just like, it's not like you want to cut them out of your life. Like, they don't want anything to do with you anymore. You're like weird, you're a cult member, you're in some strange religion, or you're in some, I find it like sort of, it depends. I think if people are really struggling, right, to like, maybe it's hard for them to give up alcohol, or they give up meat eating, or sometimes it's hard for them. And therefore they might have to create this you and me sort of isolated ourselves when we got into this, maybe from our old circle of friends. Would you say?
I certainly.
Yeah.
I was gone.
I don't think that is in demand of people nowadays, because most people aren't joining an ashram. But it must be tricky within the realms of family and friendships of like, how do you walk that tightrope between not trying to yuck it up or indulge in these things and sort of keeping your personal integrity? Any advice for that?
Well, it's not necessarily going to be easy. You can try to explain it to people and they're not necessarily going to understand. And sometimes that's my advice. In other words, you got to do what you got to do for your own spiritual life. But in doing it, you don't have to be callous to others that you might be moving on from. You don't have to get judgmental, and there's an art in that. If you can do that gracefully,
yeah,
then you save yourself a lot of mental just static, and you keep a line. alive, a connection alive with that person, that it may play out in ways that you never know in the future,
Sure. Okay. Are you ready for a friendship? We sort of like exhausted that friendship one. Probably could go, but beat that friend with a stick. Okay. Share your thoughts on aging. What's it like aging now? Okay. You've been practicing bhakti since you were 21 or so.
Yeah,
And now you're aging. You're an aged man. You have a salt and peppered beard.
I do.
Balding. Our teeth are loosening.
My teeth haven't loosened yet. Teeth are all right.
Like that description of Dhritarashtra when he comes back, when Vidura comes back, your teeth are loose, your flesh is hanging, your eyes are bloodshot. What do we do now? What about aging, Kaustubha? Enlighten me.
Well, actually, one of the most wonderful things about yoga practice, about bhakti practice, is it just releases you of all the fear of aging. It's like aging is the enemy of the materialist, but it's the friend of the spiritualist. It's actually working for us. It's
I like that.
You like that?
Yeah, I do.
What it does is you hear about, like, we've been talking about this when we read Bhagavatam together. You hear descriptions from Bhagavatam that sound very blunt, almost dark, right? Pessimistic about life.
Existence, material existence, at least.
Yeah, and you hear this, and it's kind of like, maybe you even accept it, right? You get over the hump, like, why is this book being so negative? And you say, no, it makes sense, actually, what it's saying. But that's just called knowledge. But what aging does is it helps age that knowledge into realization, where everything that these books are saying is true, right?
It's all true.
It's all true. And death is approaching. And am I ready for it, So it's not, what aging does is it doesn't allow you to wallow in the illusion. We're weak. We're in this material world because we want to find pleasures through the senses. And we're running around doing that. And even if we have the knowledge that this isn't the truth, that this isn't lasting, that this isn't deep, that this isn't nourishing for my soul, we still, because we're so weak and the mind and the senses are so strong, we tend to follow them. We allow ourselves to be controlled by it. But what aging does, it doesn't let you, it takes away your ability to enjoy sexually. It takes away your image of being, youthful and beautiful and dynamic. It takes away, your ability to enjoy even the foods that you enjoy. Your digestion gets weaker.
My digestion is weaker.
It's getting weaker, that's going to be the most painful and difficult thing for the materialist. But for the spiritualist, it's like, oh, this is just helping me right along the path. I don't sleep as much as I used to. That's great. I can't,
right.
I have to simplify my diet. That's actually going to be advantageous. I don't.
I haven't got to that point yet.
Okay.
I was like, no, I'm not going to simplify it. I'm just going to keep going.
Sooner or later you have to, right? And then the image, the facade, that is really nothing but the imitation of Krishna. Right? Like the key here is that we're trying to imitate Krishna. That's why we're lost in this material world. And that aging just makes it more and more ridiculous. So that you can let go. If you can do it well, it's hard to let go. But if you can't do it well, it's much easier to let go if you've been cultivating the right spiritual knowledge. And so aging it becomes a friend. It's a friend, Raghunath.
Aging is a friend. I like that. That's my T-shirt. Aging is a friend. Okay. All right. We're going to start. All right. Thoughts on marriage. Okay. We're in a world where there's some good marriages out there, and there's some miserable marriages. There's divorce. There's multiple divorces.
Yeah.
Wow. What do you say when people? Because what do you say when people? It's just a piece of paper. Big deal. It's just a piece of paper.
It's not a piece of paper. It's a promise. It's like it's a vow, right? Vows are something that in Vedic culture, in yoga culture, vows are like a really crucial part of life. We see it happen all the time. And you read Mahabharata, right? How many vows are taken, right? Even like just in the battle, just in the battle, like I vow tomorrow. that either I will kill, Jayadratha, or I will enter into the fire. Arjuna makes a vow like that. He means it when he says it. So taking vows is like, that's also part of the yoga path. It's like once I say it publicly, once I make that firm vow, in front of others and in front of God, that I'm determined to live up to it. And we live in a broken world where there's all kinds of difficulties doing that, and it takes two people, and it's not always easy. But it's not just a piece of paper; it is a vow, and it's a commitment, that two people are making. And this is, to me, maybe the key to marriage. Is that it's a commitment that two people. It's definitely a commitment that two people are making to each other, but really, it's a triangle. It's not just like two people facing each other, but it's two people facing God together, right? It's two people that are working together as partners to practice Dharma. And the happiness that they feel in the marriage, that's a corollary, right? It's not like, let's get together so that I can get happiness from you and you can get happiness from me. Marrying you is the ticket to my happiness. That is a recipe for disaster and disappointment, and frustration. If I'm thinking my spouse, I'm going to find happiness through my spouse. Well, what is it about them? Well, it has a lot to do with sexuality, and certain ways that they make me feel about myself. But that all gets put to the test, and there's real struggles in life, financial struggles with children, struggles with health, struggles, there's going to be serious struggles. And if your purpose was, I derive my happiness from this person, but it's the happiness seems to be waning, the happiness seems to be slipping away, then you're going to feel frustrated in the marriage. But that's really, in a sense, a warped way or an illusory way to look at it. It's not the yogic way. The yogic way is the two of us are in this together to advance in our dharma. You see like the Vedic weddings, where the husband and the bride and the groom, they take the 7 steps. You've seen that before, Raghunath?
Yeah, I've done those 7 steps.
You've done
I've done that. I've been there, done that.
So with each step, there's kind of like a commitment or like a conviction that's spoken. Like, together we will practice patience and forgive with grace. Together we will, develop a sense of values, for people above possessions and for honoring others.
Yeah. What are those 7?
I mean,
we will walk the dog, or together we will walk that dog. I can't remember what the 7 were.
Well,
Maybe that's why
they're not always the same. They're not always the same. But in general, they kind of have that, let us work together as partners. Let us work together as friends to cultivate higher values and higher goals, higher spiritual goals in life.
Yes.
They're like that. So that's
make
really
our living by honest means. That was one of them.
Okay. So yeah, that's what it's. Two people practicing Dharma together, helping each other practice Dharma, not two people coming together to find their fulfillment in each other, but it's two people coming together to support one another in practicing Dharma. And then again, the happiness is a corollary, right? Whatever joys there are in marriage, we didn't come together to have marital bliss. We came together to practice Dharma together, and whatever happiness comes is a corollary. And I think if you have that understanding.
Nice way to look at that. We didn't come here to find marital bliss. I mean, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Yeah. It's the material world. There's going to be issues, both, with each other, with ourselves, with each other as a union, and with just the economy or the culture that we live in. So you said we are there to practice our Dharma and assist each other to practice Dharma.
Yeah, there you go.
Keep us on track. I wanted to do a little Budinsky, if I may.
Please.
Because we started by saying it's a promise, but it's like a football team. They can't just promise to win the Super Bowl, or they can't just promise to get a gold medal. It's a practice and a promise.
Sure.
You have to practice up to it. Without the practice, promises are just a wish. It's just wishful thinking. And, we spent the money on the wedding, and we spent the money on the, put the time into making the really nice invites. And then we rented this big hall. But if we have no practice before what it takes to be a good spouse, and that's where Dharma comes in our preparation, then what good is just a promise? It's a promise with a preparation. And so a lot of us on our spiritual sadhana is a preparation. We prepare by working through our own stuff. And it's not urgent, of course, to work on our own stuff when we're single, but it's probably the smartest thing that we could do to prepare us for a promise.
Yeah. What preparation? I mean, let's look at our own. It just shows how broken the world we live in is. Like, were we being raised to think like, hey, to become good men and to become good husbands? I mean, was anyone even talking to us about that, or was
No.
there was
I missed
a
that
whole
lecture.
school? Yeah, I don't remember that coming up in school. People discussing what that meant, what the responsibilities are, what the commitments are, why they're valuable. Nothing like that.
Okay, sir, I'm going to take this down to gender roles, if you don't mind.
Okay.
What does it mean to be a good man? And if you're looking for a good man, what should we be looking for? What a mighty good man.
So,
sorry about that.
That's okay. As long as you don't do anything like that again during at least this show.
Who sings that song, Mara? Is that Destiny's Child? How do I know that?
Or Salt and Pepper.
Salt and Pepper. I met Salt and Pepper. Salt and Pepper. Yeah, at a photo shoot. Their photo shoot. My friend was shooting them. Oh, In Vogue. It was In Vogue, maybe.
Okay.
In Vogue. Yeah, sorry, I never met them.
Such
Go
a
on.
fascinating life.
Thank you. Me, Salt and Pepper, Gwen Stefani,
Vogue.
and In Vogue. That was okay.
So,
go
what was the
on.
question again? Oh, yeah, being a good man and gender roles. So, it's almost difficult to even answer this question in the current climate, where it's like a lot of people don't even want to recognize that there's, there should be any valid difference between gender roles. I believe, that there is a difference between men and women. There's a lot of more similarities than differences. But if we're going to work with that assumption, then let's talk about what I think about what being a good man is. And I think it has a lot to do with being responsible. I think being responsible financially, being responsible emotionally. Let's take, in the roles of being a husband or in the roles of being a father, it means not shirking one's responsibility and being protective, being protective and in a sense, being a little fearless, I do believe that men bring something to the table, especially, and women bring something to the table, especially, and I think a lot about what it means to be a good man is to recognize the good in women, to recognize, and let's say to recognize the feminine value, right? Protecting it.
Right.
And when I say not protecting it, I don't mean like protecting something so that you can exploit it.
Right.
But protecting it, like part of the feminine contribution to society, to whether it's in a one-on-one relationship, whether it's within a family, whether it's within a broader community, is, they bring a lot of beauty, a lot of love, especially, a lot of love and a lot of compassion. And even when we were reading just the other day, like the prayers that were spoken in the sacrifice, and when the wives of the Brahmana spoke, they spoke especially with compassion, that a lot of the men were missing, and so there's a beauty, there's an aspect of compassion, an aspect of love, an aspect of nurturing that's essential for us. That's essential and socially, that's essential within a family, that's essential within a relationship, and part of what it means to be a good man is to value that and protect that, to in a sense be fearless in protecting that.
Here's one. Can I butt in this one?
Yeah,
How about if we make a commitment, never to be part of a woman's regret? Never to be part of a woman's regret. Like, I'm never gonna, what a regret. Raghunath, what a regret that was.
least a
Never
valid
be
regret,
that.
yeah.
never be that for a person. A valid regret. Yeah. Thank you for that clarification.
I think honestly, my observation is that I see that it seems like our society doesn't help men grow up very well. Like a lot of grown men are behaving like children, and I don't necessarily blame it on that. I think there's something like we're not recognizing what masculinity should look like, and there's not maybe space for men to kind of be that. But I see a lot of irresponsibility. I see a lot of irresponsibility in terms of relationships. I see a lot of irresponsibility financially, especially emotionally, in men.
Did you have a responsible dad?
Yeah, my dad was responsible, sure.
Was your father a West Pointer?
He was a West Point graduate, yeah.
Okay, all right, I could see that. Yeah, my dad was pretty responsible too. You think this is a passed down from fathers? What if we have a broken parents? Can we become responsible men? Harder?
I'm no expert on these things, but I think that there has to be good role models one way or another.
Yeah.
In some sense, I feel a lot of what I've learned about life, I learned from reading books like Bhagavatam and Mahabharata and Ramayana and so on. But always there are people there that were embodying it. If you don't have anybody that's embodying it in your life, then it's going to be pretty hard. It's hard to imagine being able to really embody it yourself.
Okay, Zoomers, put it up on the board. If you can be responsible, very responsible, without having responsible parents. I'd love to hear you think
parents
about
are
that.
Examples. I mean,
parents are examples, and they're big examples. They sort of train us. But if you feel like you're exponentially more responsible than your parents, put it on the board, please. Okay, Kaustubha, I'm going to continue on with this.
Yes.
What are your thoughts of prayer?
Thoughts on
prayer? Yeah. Like besides just chanting the Maha Mantra too, if you don't mind me asking, do you just get down on your knees someday and say, "Oh God, oh Jesus, oh Prabhupada"? What do you pray for? Do you pray like outside of like chanting your rounds?
I do, but I don't think I do enough. I think that prayer should be not only like regular, but I think it should be very prominent and natural. I think we should be talking to God in our heart more than we talk to anyone else. It's like if you took all the words that came out of our mouth and added them up, there should be even more that are going on internally in that conversation. Just as two friends will speak very naturally.
Sure.
We should be having a conversation throughout the day with God in the heart. And that
I like that. I'm gonna try to do that today.
You're gonna try, okay. And that that engages the mind. Within our mind, like for instance, you and I are close friends, but you don't know what's always going on in my mind, and I don't always know what's going on in your mind.
I do. I do.
You think you do, but
I do.
but who does is actually the Paramatma, right? In other words,
and me.
That okay, and you too. But going back to friendship, part of what's important about friendship is it is that a person knows you better than other people know you, right? That's part of the value of that pure friendship is like, that your mentor or your junior, they may not see everything that the peer sees. They're not with you as much, and you don't share certain things. It's easier to put on a facade, but with your close friends, it's harder, and they know what's going on. But that's nothing compared to what Paramatma understands. Right?
Right.
So there's a value in your friends really knowing who you are, and you can't put up the facade, and they'll just knock it down as soon as you try to put it up and say, "Come on, let's get real." But with Paramatma, Paramatma knows everything that's going on in your mind, and so you're naked. You're completely vulnerable. You're completely open to God in the heart, and that relationship can be the most real. The most real relationship you have. So, I think it's something that it's something that we're talking about aging, as I get older, I want to get better at this. I want to get more accustomed to this and more natural, and that conversation always be going on. That's part of the reason why the sannyasi You know, as you reach a certain age, you leave home, you wander alone in the forest. There's nobody to talk to except God in the heart, and you really cultivate that relationship one way or another. We've got to find a way to cultivate that, and that's prayer. You know, prayer is the way that we do it, and we got to find a way that it becomes a very natural part of our life.
One way or another, do that.
Well, I'm saying we may not wander off into the forest.
Or another.
I thought you weren't going
I'm
to
just
do
going
that.
for the song. I'm just going for the song. I'm listening.
But you know,
to
Raghunath, you have this thing about wanting to find a treasure out there, right?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You want to bring the conversation there now?
Well, it's related because
Caribbean shipwrecks.
Because these prayers that we find, these verses in Bhagavatam, where different great souls are offering, those verses, they are jewels, Raghunath. They are the treasures out there.
I know those are the treasures. I know those are the real treasures. I know those
they
are
are,
treasures.
and they're kind of hidden, right? Like it's kind of like that. Bhagavatam is like a chest, and it's full of them. You got to open it up, and then you got to start looking around in there, and then identifying them, right? And
I'm not saying those aren't treasures. Yes.
Okay, and they teach us how to pray. You know, when we read the prayers in Bhagavatam, it explains to us the mood in which one prays, and they reveal truth. And they give us great relief, actually. You know, we heard that incredible verse the other day, right? That there's an analogy of an elephant in a forest fire, you know, running around, you know, it's got no shelter, but then it finds a river and it goes into that river. So it says the prayers, you know, to you are like entering into, when we bring our mind to you, when we bring our mind to your pastimes, when we bring our mind to these prayers in the Bhagavatam. I'm saying this not theoretically now. I'm saying this very practically. That if our mind is disturbed, if we feel anger, resentment, fear rising in our mind, the quickest and most effective way to flip the switch from the wavelength of illusion and suffering to the wavelength of truth and beauty is to meditate on these verses, meditate on these prayers that are already there. If you memorize them, memorize some Brahma Samhita, memorize some Bhagavad Gita, memorize some Bhagavatam.
You know, I'm getting into this lately too, because I'm getting into this with my deity worship. It's like I want to go out and reading these prayers from the Bhagavatam or reading stotrams or bhajans, so you can just like spontaneously say them at your altar. Otherwise, after the puja is done or the worship is done, you end up sort of like your relationship with God is, please help me out of this. Please assist me with this. Please mend this. It's almost like constant asking for stuff instead of just appreciating and glorifying, which is much more joyful to the heart. And naturally that stuff is going to come up. But there becomes a deeper faith. And when you start to fully love Krishna, I find those other prayers for help me deal with my stuff recede. And you just have a deeper trust that Krishna knows what I need. Krishna knows exactly he's going to work this out. This is for my benefit. Krishna knows me. And so I'm in my own spiritual practice, I'm working on absorbing my mind in those, we call the nectar prayers, where you're just glorifying Krishna or Krishna's associates or Lord Ram or Lord Vishnu, and hearing these mantras play in the background in my house and stuff like that.
You see,
it pulls me away from God as my metaphysical Amazon Prime to fulfill all my needs.
And you know, that to me, Raghunath, that's part of the beauty of aging, right? Like, whereas as a younger man, you may have needed more to engage your mind or to find some kind of thrill. As you're getting older, just meditating on those prayers becomes like something you dive into and find deep satisfaction in, you know?
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on, my friend.
All right.
We don't have much time here, but I think this is a big one, because I think as I get older, this becomes louder and louder and louder. Because as we get older, we find that we've had some maybe soured relationships. We've had we start to notice what is circulating in our mind on a regular basis. And this one's become a lot louder to me. Share your thoughts on forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness. Okay. Well, my thoughts on forgiveness is forgiveness is like this key to relief. You know, it's a key to help us find peace, but we're super reluctant to accept it or to engage it. You know, it's like, it's actually so simple.
I'd rather be bitter than be peaceful.
Yeah, we have a mind that is always disturbed. You know, just if we could, what would be really fascinating if someone could invent a machine, right? That we were able to just kind of like, I don't know, plug it into our ear or something like that, and it would, and at the end of a 24-hour period, it could just list like where our thoughts were. Like, you know, you spent 38% of the day absorbed in thoughts on this. You know, and you spend 10% of the day absorbed in thoughts on it. Wouldn't it be revealing? Like, particularly as a Bhakti-yogi, you say, oh my God.
Well, they have that with apps for your phone. Like, okay, you've been on Instagram for like 2 hours today.
Exactly.
What was your mind? I was meditating on sex, resentment, anger, fear.
Yeah.
That's a good app.
That would be a good app. And imagine even
that'd be a good app.
You're like, you spent like really, like, if you really added up 10 minutes of quality meditation, you know, on God. Well, I chanted japa for 2 hours. Yeah, but your mind was like completely elsewhere.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, imagine if you had to wear it on your forehead so everybody could see it.
Now you're getting
sex,
scary,
resentment, anger,
lust, greed, fear, all those things. Yeah. So like resentment, that's big. Like, you know, resentment and anger tied to resentment.
What can we call that app? What can we call that app? Put it on the board if you've got a good name for that app. That is a great idea. I love this. I'm going to play with this this thought. Showing your mind, something that connects to your skull and to your iPhone, and then it reports all the data.
It would be big.
Okay. Sorry for being a Buttinsky there.
No,
Continue on.
So my point was that it would be interesting to find out how much, you know, how much the average person is engaged in thoughts of resentment throughout the day. How much space within our mind do we give that? Wouldn't it be fascinating if you could take a real sadhu then and saw her mind or his mind and like, oh, there was no resentment the entire day, right? Like they didn't even entertain resentment at all, right? And how fertile their mind would be, how capable their mind would be to actually doing what we're trying to do, absorb it deep in meditation. So it gives relief, it gives peace. All you got to do is let it go, right? We think we have the idea of forgiveness tied into that idea. We think we're letting someone off the hook when they don't deserve it. But really what it's just doing is freeing ourselves up, you know, from becoming prisoners of resentment and having a mind that's now capable and ready to take on much more noble and satisfying and nourishing engagement.
The more I think about this theory of yours, Kaustubha, someone's got to make this. Because that way we can immediately go into a relationship. We understand the person's, oh, wait a second, you have a total agenda.
It would make a good science fiction film, right?
You were dressed like this. You were in this spiritual outfit, or this lady or man approached me and they said, I like the way you look, or I like who you are. They laughed at my joke. But what they're really thinking is this. You know what? Maybe we should all learn that Mystic City where you can peer into people's mind. You know, maybe that's what we need. Maybe that should be a branch of our show. Siddhis, the Bhakti Recovery Siddhi group.
You know, once when I was, you know, my service as a brahmachari was something like going out and collecting that wood for the guru, but I was going out and selling Bhagavad Gitas, right? Like that was I did that for years and years and years, you know. And I remember once I was speaking to someone, and this guy said something like he had some. I don't know, we talked about the mind and we talked about stress or something, and he pulled out of his like wallet like this kind of, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it was something like you put your thumb on it and it reveals like your mood. And
like a mood ring.
And he said, well, like, is this stuff bringing you peace? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you know, blah, blah, you know, I'm saying it, but I'm saying it really superficially, you know. And he says, well, here, check this out, try this. And I put my thumb on it, and he's like, no, you're stressed. You're stressed, man. I can tell right here. You know, I'm like, I'm not stressed. It's like, no, you're stressed. But actually, he was right, or the thing was right. You know, but it would really would be a fascinating thing. I think it would make a good science fiction film. If you had that kind of thing, people were walking around on that with that kind of revealing your mind.
Where is their mind? Where is their agenda? What are they meditating on? It's a good question to ask yourself. What am I meditating on today?
Well,
how much am I going to be? I call it my stinking thinking. When I get my mind where I'm filled with resentment or anger or want a retaliation, that's stinking thinking. I want to clean up that consciousness. I want to think of good thoughts, pure thoughts, be happy for people's good fortune, be sad if a person's going through a tough time, see everybody. When someone walks in the door, it should be like, all right, who is this person? I'm happy to see this person. It shouldn't be like, who the hell do they think they are coming in wearing that? We got to get that type of thinking. We got to get rid of that type of thinking. Stinking thinking, man.
Well, that's kind of like we might not have that little invention that's going to add up all the numbers for us, but we actually really do have the ability to kind of see what's going on in our mind right now, rather than being lost in it. Like rather than being drowned in our own thoughts, stepping back from them and observing them. And doing exactly what you're saying, is this where I want my mind to be right now? And if not, what am I doing about it? Right? That's what a yogi does. Right?
All right.
I know your mind is absorbed in something else right now, like the chat board or something like that.
No, it's not, my friend.
I see. I can see it. It's like it's sitting right there on your forehead, Raghunath. I can see
the chat board. It wasn't actually. I wasn't looking at that chalkboard.
Okay.
Although now that I am,
Parmatma knows, Raghunath. So maybe I might be wrong.
Lots of app names are coming up on the board.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? It's time, my friend. I was looking at the clock and I'm realizing it's time. Mara, what do you think about that?
Yeah, great.
I told you what question to end on, but you didn't end on it.
No.
Oh, you did. You did. I didn't read that.
Oh, you did.
He tells
you
me
responded
everything.
as if you read what I wrote to you, but apparently you didn't. That's cool.
I blew it. You had a good thing going.
Well, no. My point was the last one was share your thoughts on love. Right, we're gonna go there.
Oh,
you could have wrapped it up
okay.
nice. Should I do that?
Well, yeah. Forgiveness was good.
Okay.
Forgiveness was good.
We can end up.
Children, I was gonna skip that one.
Okay.
Although you're pretty good with kids.
I don't know. Anyway, it's not a question of whether or not.
You want a statement? You want to give me a statement on love that we can walk away and put in our pocket, walk home with today? Marinate.
Marinate. My point with love is that in one sense, it's really what life is all about. It's what we're made of. It's what we're made for. It is our nature to love. Krishna prema, to love God. That's our nature. And that means that our entire existence, really, our entire yoga practice, but really like every part of our day should be part of our yoga practice. And our entire yoga practice should be geared at or aimed at becoming more capable of loving purely, right? Loving more deeply and loving more widely. Like, in other words, loving God and loving God deeply and loving those that are close to us deeply, but also loving widely, like actually feeling a sense of connection and affection for every living being. That's really all that we're meant to be doing here, So our yoga practice should be conceived of in that context. And our entire life should be conceived of in context of our yoga practice. So everything from the minute that we wake up to the minute that we go to sleep in life is really just designed. It should be designed. We should be living it for the purpose of becoming more capable of loving purely. And that's it.
That was beautiful. I'm glad we ended with love.
A little love.
Okay. Well, I love you. How about that?
Oh, that's sweet, Raghunath. I love you too.
Thanks. All right. That's the show today. That was fun.
So we're back at 6 tomorrow, right?
Back at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'll see you.
Tomorrow's a big day.
I want to thank everybody for... It's Nityananda's appearance day. You know what it is, my friend? It's the anniversary of my initiation.
Maybe
First initiation and second initiation.
Okay.
And it's Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Yeah, 1991, I was initiated in Vrindavan, and then 93. And you got second initiation. We had a double header initiation. We were initiated together in 1991, and then 1993 I got second initiation, same day, which is tomorrow. Matter of fact, we're having a little Nityananda appearance day game today. little party today.
No
with Lord
party?
Nityananda, and maybe we could talk about that tomorrow.
Okay, I'd love to hear about it. I'm not invited?
You are invited. No, I'm just saying we could talk about Lord Nityananda. But
Okay.
you can come up today.
Such
tell
an
you, it's
esoteric
super
subject.
icy out up here. Huh?
Such an esoteric
It's a-
subject. It's hard
It's
to...
a little esoteric. But
We'll figure it out.
maybe I'll tell a good story. I'll tell a good story.
Hey, we got another great dancer here over there in the Laura Denoy box over here, their daughter.